I'm embarrassed and perturbed about today's episode of Emergency Rant with Bezoslice. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's get it.
This is Emergency Rant with Bezoslice, your signal to vent, shout, and set it straight.
So I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching the show. And I will tell you, I'm taken back by a lot of things that are going on in the world of college football. So we're going to get back into this. I don't understand. I really don't understand how a team that lost is ahead of a team that won, and they have the same record. It makes no sense at all. It really doesn't. University of Miami is 10-2. Notre Dame is 10-2. Alabama is 10-2. BYU is 11-1. Now BYU is playing in their conference championship. Alabama is playing in their conference championship. Miami, unfortunately, did not make their ACC championship. Notre Dame is an independent school for football, so of course they didn't make a conference championship. But why is it that one team that has played and can set their own schedule as they see fit, why are they ahead of Miami? Now, you could throw the illustrious quote of people hate Miami, this and that and this, and I get it. So the college football rankings, they do come out, and BYU finished 11th and Miami finished 12th. Now, the surprise to a lot of people was that Notre Dame went from 9 and dropped down one spot to 10. Alabama moved one spot to 9. Now, I do agree with what the rankings are from numbers 1 through 9. I do agree with that. You know, Texas A&M losing to Texas. Texas A&M drops from number 4 to number 7. And Texas A&M does deserve to be in the college football playoffs. There's, like I said, I have no issue. The issue is you have 4 teams vying for one spot. So first team is Alabama, Notre Dame, BYU, Miami. And for the second year in a row, and by the way, for the first time since the team has joined the ACC, Miami has back-to-back consecutive 10-2 seasons. And I honestly thought that Miami would finish the year at 10-2. I said there was a couple of trap games. I said, number 1, the trap game, the concerning game was Notre Dame. Then Florida. Then Florida State. SMU. Virginia Tech. Louisville. And Pitt. And with the exception of SMU and Louisville, Miami won all those games. Florida was a borderline top 25 team when Miami played the Gators. They won. It was not as close as the score suggested. Miami was very dominant defensively in that game. Notre Dame game was close, but Miami just was in control of that ball game pretty much throughout. Florida State game was obviously over before it started, but The crazy thing about it is that all those teams that I mentioned were ranked at the time. And when you play in the NFL, because I'm going to compare pro to college, because that's what it is. When you compare the NFL to college football, the tiebreaker goes to the team that has won more games if it's head to head. So, for example, if the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills were to finish the season with the same regular season record, but in one of those games Kansas City beat Buffalo, Kansas City would be the higher seed ahead of Buffalo. What I don't understand is, how is it that a team that has the same record, that has played at least a couple of those teams, they both have faced them, and that team has had a better margin of victory, is looked at insignificantly to a team that lost to that team? It baffles me. It really does. Yes, I am a University of Miami alumni. Yes, I'm a Hurricane through and through. I will root for my team. But this has nothing just to do with Miami, because you can make an argument for Vanderbilt. You can make an argument for Texas. And it's just, it really doesn't make any sense. Now, the difference in this year's committee versus last year's committee was, at this point last year, when Miami was ruled out ahead of Alabama, and then that infamous ACC championship between Clemson and SMU, where SMU lost, Clemson won. Clemson had to win the ACC championship to get ahead. They changed the format, but the teams that were on the outside looking in were not judged. So now you have all these factors going in this year. Because now you look at James Madison. If James Madison wins and Duke wins and Alabama loses and BYU loses, does Miami get the opportunity to play in the college football playoffs? Look, Miami, if we don't get in, I'm not surprised that we didn't get in. But at the same time, I am. Because at this point last year, the Hurricanes had a sluggish finish. Because we just had to beat Syracuse in the Carrier Dome, and Miami would have been an ACC championship. And honestly, Miami would have been a lock to play in the college football playoffs. But we lost. And because of that loss, Clemson, by default, went ahead of us and played SMU. The thing that troubles me is, for Texas, for Miami, for BYU, who BYU has a better record than Miami and Notre Dame and Texas. How is it that they're in the back burner? To me, it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. I said this last year. I'm going to say this again.
Happy holidays, everyone! Cocaine Cola! Fuck yeah!
Call Orchid!
Don't worry, folks. I brought the good stuff.
You're getting them drunk, not dead.
Hey, at least they're buzzed, not biting. Orkin, bringing new meaning to...
What is up, virgins and virgins? Who's Brad Pitt?
Dad, we're out of milk.
Then there's only one thing left to do.
I will be back.
One man, one mission, 1% milk for breakfast for my kid.
Deep to left field. Way back. It's gone. The Marlins take the championship.
Ooh, yeah! Walk it off, brother! Macho Man brings the title home!
They need to do something better with the at-large bid, the last spot. So, here's what I suggest that they could do. Couple things. They could extend the playoff seeding and do 16 teams versus 12. That way you have 2 more at-large bids or 1 more at-large bid and another conference champion. You could do that. You could, I don't know, you could have extended to 18 teams. And then where there's no rhyme or reason as to who gets in and who gets out. But I think extending it to 18 teams really takes the luster out of it. Here's the suggestion that I have. The teams that are on the bubble. Miami, BYU, Notre Dame, teams that don't have a conference championship. They should play against each other to see who gets the opportunity to get that at-large bid. So, for example, Miami is ranked 12th. BYU is ranked 11th. Now, BYU is playing in a conference championship game. Miami isn't. Neither is Notre Dame. So what do we do to solve this problem? You have the bubble team, which in this case would be University of Miami, play Notre Dame, the 10th seed. And then you could really place judgment to see if Notre Dame that lost to Miami in August is the same Notre Dame team that could potentially lose to Miami. Because those 2 teams are not going to play. The playoffs are not going to start until towards the end of the month. So they have a couple weeks to rest, recuperate, and get everything ready. It baffles me to the core. It really does. I don't get it. I really don't. And to be honest with you, look, we got the college football playoffs because we thought the BCS was in a way faulty because you only had 2 teams and not 4. I think we need to get rid of the committee altogether and go back to the BCS. That's another way you could do it. 12 teams and the BCS goes ahead and decides, the computer decides who's in and who's out. And of course, you're going to have arguments left and right. Look, the NCAA tournament used to have, 28 teams. And that was it. Or whatever, 64, sorry. And now there are more. You have bubble games for college basketball to determine those spots. Why can't they do that with football? And I honestly think that is the most logical thing. Because then you can place, like imagine if Miami and Notre Dame played again. And Miami won. You play them on a neutral site. Or if you want to do it this way, Miami goes to South Bend, Indiana and plays Notre Dame on their home turf. Since Notre Dame is the higher seed, you do that. And what if Miami wins? Then by default, Notre Dame should not be in the college football playoffs. I'm sorry. I honestly do not know what else to say. And I don't know regardless of what happens this weekend, when the final rankings come out on Sunday, if it's going to make much of a difference. Because you got Troy and James Madison. Now, James Madison is ranked. If James Madison wins the Sun Belt Championship, and if Duke beats Virginia and BYU loses to Texas Tech, there's a very good argument for James Madison to be in the college football playoffs as the 12th seed. But, like, let's say hypothetically, what if Troy beats James Madison? What if BYU loses to Texas Tech? Alabama loses to Georgia? Obviously, I don't think it's going to matter between Ohio State and Indiana because, to be honest with you, I think both these teams, truthfully, I think they're going to be in the same spot. But what if Duke beats Virginia? Does Miami have a shot? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just think that there needs to be something more concrete. So I think at the end of the day, I think that there needs to be either a play-in game for the teams that are on the bubble, and you could spruce it however you want to spruce it. You can go ahead and make sure you can push the college football playoffs back at least an additional week, and you do it between the conference championship and the following week. Let's say Texas and Miami, Notre Dame, and whoever else, one more team Vanderbilt. Those four teams are not playing conference championship games. So what do? You play them. Neutral sites. Or if the higher seed gets the home field advantage, you go from there. And the winner of those games in that little mini bubble play earns the right to play as the at-large bid, the final at-large bid, to play in the college football playoffs. I honestly think that's how they should do it. You get more ratings that way. Notre Dame's not playing this weekend, but if Notre Dame was to play in this, you will definitely get a lot of ratings because Notre Dame is Notre Dame. No matter what. I just think at the end of the day, it's disappointing and disgusting, to be honest with you, that these teams don't do enough. But again, Alabama can blame themselves. They have an opportunity to play in the college football playoffs, but there's even an argument that regardless of whatever happens, Alabama's still in. What happens if Georgia dog walks them? What happens if Duke convincingly beats Virginia? What happens if BYU loses really bad to Texas Tech? I don't know. I honestly think that at the end of the day, there needs to be a better way of getting something more concrete and better. So, again, I think that the solutions here is A, you make sure that you do no more college football playoff committee. You do it by computers. You do it with the same teams, 12. Or at bid tournament. Or if you're Miami, if you're Notre Dame, if you're Texas, and if you're Vanderbilt, Don't leave it up to chance. And just win the games that you were supposed to not lose. That's just one man's opinion. Anyways, I'm done for now. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching the show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We will see you next Friday. Till then, I'm Bezoslice. Thank you for watching Emergency Rant with Bezoslice. You guys have a great, great, great night. Take care.